I just read a statistic that is absolutely disgusting to me. About 107 men off themselves every single day. They are the 79% of the unaliving themselves rate is men. 79%. That there are, I believe they said something about 35,000 people to 39,000 men unalive themselves a year. And it is going up 2.6% a year almost. And yet women are the victims. Women are the ones that are suffering. Wake the fuck up. If this is how men feel and they're offing themselves so quietly and they're still letting you take the lead, you are not the victim. You are the oppressors. Women are the abusers. It is us. We are the problem. It's disgusting.
I personally was not shocked at all at how young men overwhelmingly voted for Trump in this previous election, despite how Gen Z talks about how progressive they are. If you are curious as to what is happening on the internet that is radicalizing young men, this podcast, you need to listen to it. It's available on YouTube. It's everywhere. This specific episode of Offline with Jon Favreau features Laura Bates, who infiltrated some of these communities online, and the stories that she tells are horrifying. The way that the algorithms work to recruit young men to hate women, the amount of men who just see hateful content about women, the way that it starts kind of innocuously and the way that it gets more and more radical and more horrid is something that all feminists need to be aware of. The feminist response when I start talking about this is usually something about like, I shouldn't have to hold men's hand and explain things to them, but we do, and we need to explain them why patriarchy hurts them.
The courage that these women have to open their mouths and talk about how men should behave is hands down diabolical. The content online is teaching young men to hate women? Really? The content online is teaching men to protect themselves from banshees like her. To women, anything that makes it harder for them to exploit men is considered hateful. How dare you as a man do something for your own best interest? Don't you know that you are supposed to work yourself to an early grave so that women can have a good life? You see, women are weak. There is nothing that women can do unless it is enabled by men. Women cannot gain authority over men, so what they do is use shame, guilt, and insults to make men relinquish authority to them. Since she cannot beat you, she will play the victim, act all self-righteous, and play on your compassion so that you will restrain yourself and even go as far as to subjugate yourself and elevate her. She is talking about men being taught to hate women. How about the evil of feminism that actually teaches women to hate men? All institutions within society is more sympathetic to women even when the woman is in the wrong, which is 90% of the time. The school system, higher education, entertainment, the mainstream media, the family court, and the church, all those institutions have no respect or consideration for men. Just like the devil, if you give women your hand, they will take your entire harm.
What do you think of Andrew Tateism then?
So as a general rule, I don't comment on people that I don't speak to. Mm-hmm. So tell me the features of what you're talking about.
Okay, so the recent wave of internet masculine influencers who have like Bugattis and lots of women and sports cars, and there's many of them. And they seem to be resonant for some kind of reason, that are kind of saying that the way to be a man is to have loads of money, lots of women, these kind of cars, physical strength. And there's just this huge sort of generation of young, typically men, that are now disciples of that religion.
Yeah. So I think if you dislike that toxic masculinity, what we need to understand is it's the people who hate that toxic masculinity that are driving these people towards it. So I know this is kind of crazy. So what's happened is this has grown, right? And as it's grown, what have we done? We've demonized these people. We've said these people are bad. And as we demonize them, what's happened? They've grown stronger. So this is something that's very important to understand. If you are a man and you say, I am suffering today, what is the response that you're going to get?
Shut up.
Absolutely.
Not in those exact words, but that's whatever the words are, that's what they mean.
Now, I want us to be very, very careful, right? So if you are listening to Steven say people tell you to shut up, and your first thought as a listener is, no, that's not true, that's the problem. So if people agree with you, they understand what you're saying. But if they disagree with you, that's the problem. We literally have a man who is telling telling us right now that your experiences when I say I'm suffering, people tell you to shut up. And then people are going to be judging you for saying that. And they're going to be saying, no, that's not true.
They're going to be saying, shut up.
Absolutely. Right? So this is exactly the problem. So men are struggling right now, and the rest of the world says, no, you're not. You're privileged. You're a man. There's a patriarchy. And I'm not commenting on the sociology of it. There is a patriarchy, whatever. Men have many advantages in life. I've experienced many advantages of being a man. It's absolutely true. Let's not go there. I'm talking about the individual experience of men. So there is one group of people on the planet who says, yes, your life does suck. And that's these toxic masculine people. They're the only people that truly validate men's experiences. Because everyone else says, why are you complaining? And these guys say, yeah, you're a loser. What are you going to do about it? They at least meet you where you're at. And they say, yes, your life is hard, and I will show you a way to make it better. Whereas the rest of the world says, no, your life isn't hard. What are you complaining about? And I've seen this as a doctor. I've seen patients who are complaining about pain, women who are complaining about pain because they have an internal bleed within the wall of their uterus that cannot get detected. And they're saying, I'm hurting, I'm hurting, I'm hurting. And we ignore this person's pain. And that's when things go bad. So for years and years and years, we have ignored the struggles of men. And there's one group on the planet who accepts them with open arms. And the more that we demonize them, so when someone starts believing in this toxic masculinity, what is the response? Do people ever ask, like, help me understand what your life is like? Like, what do you like about this person? Because everyone's going to them for a reason, but we never bother to ask, why are you listening to this person? What does this mean to you? We see these posts all the time in our community. My boyfriend is getting into this stuff. My son is getting this stuff. How do I stop it? Hold on a second. Don't try to stop it. Understand it first. Because everyone's trying to stop it and no one is bothering to listen to what the experience of these men are. And that's why it's getting worse and worse and worse as we try to stop it.
So if I'm the mother of a son who is watching a lot of these sort of toxic male influences online, what would be a better approach versus just banning the computer and telling them that that's toxic and not to look at it?
Help me understand what you like about this. What is it like to be a man in today's day and age? How do you feel about yourself? How does it feel knowing that 70 to 80% of women want you to make more money than them, and yet 60% of people who graduate from college are women? So men are living in a world today where there are impossible expectations to meet. And so, like, what is it like to be someone who fundamentally has no chance at success? Right? These are the kinds of things that you need to say to these people. You need to give them an alternate place to go where they can be heard and helped, supported and understood. See, anytime we make a judgment, our mind already has a conclusion. There's nothing left to learn anytime we're judgmental. So what do we do to all these people who are toxic men? We even create the word toxic. We literally label them as bad in some way. And I'm not saying that the behavior isn't toxic. But what I'm trying to point out is that even in our language, there is so much harsh judgment. So I once had a patient.
We both just did it, didn't we?
Absolutely. So I once had a patient who was smearing feces all over the school. So adolescent kid, right? And when you have a kid who's literally taking a shit and wiping it on the walls and stuff, what happens? The kid gets punished. Kid gets punished again and again and again. The one really sad thing is no one ever asks, why are you doing this? What's going on inside you? Because healthy kids don't do this. It's only kids who've been traumatized in some way. And as I've worked with incels, as I've worked with people who are toxically masculine, it always starts with trauma. And when I say always, this is a clinical experience, but I'm talking about 100%. So 100% of people start on this path by getting hurt in some way, by getting taken advantage of in some way, by sacrificing something and not getting something in return. And they have their share of responsibility too. I'm not saying that they're hapless victims, but I think that people who are raised with love and compassion and do have connections don't go down this road.
You're so passionate about this, aren't you? Because I feel like your eyes have seen in your practice some pretty heartbreaking things.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like, see, unless we are willing to be what these people need, they're going to continue going down the toxic masculinity route. Someone needs to start offering these people safe haven.
Most men don't need a safe haven. Men know that the world is a hard place full of challenges, and most men don't mind facing them. The reason why men are walking away or choosing the quote-unquote toxic masculine route is because the return on investment is not worth the investment. Men are still expected to perform the quote-unquote traditional duties that men have, but men are no longer getting the benefits that come with performing said duties. Men are done with the disrespect, the entitlement, and the lack of consideration.
No matter what they say, or not no matter, I think there should be consequences for actions. But so this is as someone who's worked in a jail, right? So, and this is what's kind of interesting if you really think about it. People will judge me for talking to or even trying to support people who are toxically masculine. And they're like, oh my God, you're such an giving these people a platform. How could you make the world a worse place? And then I tell them I worked in a jail for 3 months, and they're like, oh, look at you. You're so compassionate. You're working with these people who are like criminals, and like, oh my God.
Wow.
I don't think they realize that anyone you see on social media is 10 times better than the people that I worked with in jail.
That just shows you how much women hate men. Just like what was done to Jesus, people decided to release Barabbas, a murderer, a ruffian of the worst kind, and condemn Jesus, just because he was speaking the truth. Not saying that the red pill is giving the gospel, but one thing is sure is that the red pill has more truth and good intentions for the greater good than feminism will ever have. Thanks to feminism, people like Ted Bundy can receive love letters from women while they are in prison sentenced for multiple counts of deleting people, but poor Joe from accounting can't even get a smile. He is right in what he said, but at the end he is still a simp. He is refusing to point out the real problem. And the real problem is feminism. Feminism is teaching women to be dishonest, entitled, ungrateful victims. Women have rights with no obligations, while men can't have rights without obligations. Just look at Ukraine. Men are fighting to defend their country while women are chilling. Everything women enjoy today is the result of men's work. Everything women enjoy is maintained and protected by men. There is absolutely nothing that women do that doesn't require men's involvement. Feminism teaches women that women are better than men and that men owe women. Let me know what you think in the comments section, like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, have a good one.